Let me start with some very basics. So Web3. Web3 is the newest iteration of the internet, really. Everyone may remember that Web1 was the first version of the web where it was essentially read-only and you could only download and see information. And Web2 was more of a read-write version of the internet. So Web2 was the iteration that allowed people to produce content. It was services like YouTube or social media, where the internet was not anymore a tool that only some developers or some companies or some people who have the means and ability to create servers and produce information to do that, and everyone else is just reading, but it was everyone could participate. Now Web3 is adding an additional element to this. Using the Web3 and essentially blockchain and cryptocurrencies, people are able to have true digital online citizenship and digital ownership. And what we mean by ownership is that now people can own certain things online that are residing on blockchain, such as cryptocurrencies or non-fungible tokens or other types of ownerships, and they can interact with them. So this can create certain very new functionalities and unblocks a completely different world of applications that now can reside online. And while I was talking, I already mentioned that blockchain is a core technology enabler of this of Web3, which is a shared, decentralized, immutable record. It's a chain of blocks that essentially keeps track of this stuff. And the stuff, as I mentioned, it could be cryptocurrency or other types of digital assets. Now, Pi Network is one of the world's largest blockchain-enabled communities with over 35 million engaged members. And it is a platform as well, and the Pi platform enables a user-friendly, intuitive, and robust and accessible ecosystem for all sorts of these kinds of activities to happen between users, developers, and merchants. Now, the user-based pioneers is already crypto-enabled, meaning that they have what's called wallets, which is essentially a private key and a public key. But they don't just have wallets, so the ability to interact with the cryptographic algorithms, but they also have wallets with cryptocurrency inside Pi, and they have been mining it for the last over 4 years. So they are essentially a group of people who are ready to interact with Web3. So essentially what you can do as developers of this hackathon is to build meaningful utilities that can deliver this kind of impact on Web3. So building on Pi is, first of all, simple, because you don't need to know new technologies and different things or write very complicated blockchain-based protocols, smart contracts, and algorithms, while at the same time, you can create Web3 applications. And we spend a tremendous amount of time to try to make the platform accessible to everyday developers and try to help them deliver reliable, secure, and safe applications by using simple tools like essentially, if you know how to build a web application, and if you know how to integrate into your web application a JavaScript library and able to do API calls, well, that's pretty much a Pi app. So with this platform, we enable you to focus on building your apps and delivering value to your users. And the first point here on the slide is there is always engaged users already, all the pioneers who are part of the Pi network globally, who are ready and eager to use these functionalities and utilities that you may end up building. Now, one other thing that we recently created is a specific open source license for Pi. So we call it Pi OS, Pi Open Source, and it specifically grants unrestricted use of the code, similar to how MIT license works, but it does that within the Pi ecosystem. So this allows Pi community developers to essentially create source code and applications that are custom for the Pi ecosystem. And that can be all the way from full-fledged apps to libraries and foster all sorts of collaboration between Pi community developers. Now, speaking of judges and apps, let's look at what are some features of apps that we will potentially assess as the more successful apps. So the features that we're looking for are actually intuitive and straightforward. So we're looking for apps that are simple. So the more simple your app is, and by simple, I don't mean simplistic, the more you will be able to produce that one simple functionality in a meaningful and thoughtful way and well thought through and rounded way. So by simple here, I mean that if your app is designed to build one thing and it does that well, then that's better than if you create an app that has 15 different features. So the Pi network is overall a collection of different utilities. For example, a chat utility already exists for Pi. So your app, maybe you want to build a better chat utility. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You can build a better chat utility. And that would be a single, simple goal for your app. But if you don't choose to build a better chat utility that's better than the one we have, then if in your app you're doing something else and you also add the chat functionality, then you end up not building a simple app. You're going to have an app with two very different features. It's going to be probably building something fun. Let's say it's a video app or it's like some other functionality, plus it has the aspiration to be a chat app. So that is going to reduce your ability to build the one other functionality that you wanted to have thoroughly and successfully and with as good user experience as possible. So that's what I mean by simplicity here. Pick one core functionality, do it really well, get it in front of users, have everyone using it. If you really need other functionalities, see if there is a compatible other existing Pi app and direct your users there. No need to try to build everything within the settings of the one hackathon. Now, second thing is utility. So we are looking for apps that are solving a specific user need. So if someone asks you, what is your app doing? You should be able to respond within one sentence that what it's doing. So, and people could reply back to what you said by saying, okay, that sounds useful, that sounds interesting. Or they may even say, well, I wouldn't be using this, but I get it. Yeah, some people may be interested in this. But still, they're not going to respond, what is that? Can you say that one more time? All right. The third thing that we're looking for is deployability, meaning whatever you're building, you should be able to deploy it and independently launch it on Pi by the end of the hackathon. So, for example, if your app were to depend on, say, some external business development partnerships in order for this to make any sense, let's say you were building an app that was dependent on a big electric vehicle company to connect with your app in order for your app to be functional. So before your app can be even used by any user, you need to strike that deal with the electric vehicle company. And until then, it's just a proof of concept. Well, that's exciting. We're always looking for people to create innovation. We understand certain things take time, and if you don't try to get that big partnership with that external company, I mean, how could you ever build big ideas? But this, if you choose this type of path, it's going to be a little less advantaged compared to other apps in the hackathon. So someone else who built an app that can be fully deployed and it doesn't depend on third-party apps or on third parties or other types of complexities, they will most likely get more users, probably attract the attention of the judges more, and they're more likely to win the hackathon than an app that is only staying on the proof of concept, on the concept of yeah, it would be great if we could attach this to the world, but of course the world is not there yet. Proof of concept, but not the actual usable app. So we'd like to have apps that pioneers. We have all these members of the network who are eager and ready to use apps, and they should be able to use it. Now, obviously, we are looking for apps that are integrating with Pi. So we are supporters of all the ideas, and we wish them all the best. But the Pi Hackathon is created to focus on apps that are integrating with Pi one way or another. So they have to be relevant apps. And also, the point visible on the slide saying blockchain relevance is that the relevance, it shouldn't be forced. So in the sense, try to think of apps and ideas where the idea that is using Pi or blockchain comes naturally in the app, is not forced. So if your user comes to your app and says, okay, great, this is an awesome app, I want to use it, but why are you asking me for Pi here? That's so irrelevant. Then that's probably not a good use case for a Pi application. And finally, we want the app to be, the apps you build to be as accessible as possible. So we are not against niche apps or apps of a specific need. We are more than happy to have those. And it is perfectly okay if your app is useful to a relatively small population, or like people under specific conditions, or people of a specific country, of a specific town, of a specific occupation. It's perfectly fine. I'm not calling this not accessible. It is a not so big, but smaller percentage of the population. But it wouldn't be a successful hackathon app if you build something very custom specific to you and your two friends, and it doesn't extrapolate to other people on the network. Because the intent after the hackathon is to help you get your apps to be accessed and used by as many people as possible. And if in order for someone to use an app has to have has to live in your apartment and has the same last name as you and a bunch of other conditions that apply only to 3 people in the world, then that's not a percentage of the population. Of course, even apps that can be applicable to everyone, that's even better, but having a smaller than everyone potential user base is also fine. Just not just apps that are much more restrictive may not be as successful in the hackathon as possible.